if I want to be this character that I've made up in my head, you know, like pro snowboarder, this felt like it would be a really big, you know, legend status step where I'm like, okay, if I can do this, this is like, I am one of the guys. Chad's Gap is probably the most iconic ski and snowboard jump in the world. Nestled in Grizzly Gulch up in Little Cottonwood Canyon. And it's a really interesting feature. It's not natural. So there is the hillside of a mountain that then has an old mine tailing. Like Alta was a mining town, so there's this like huge pile of dirt that then kind of gets deposited into the end of the gully. And what's been formed is this bit of like a big in-run flat table from like the mining equipment, an old logging road that was like carved out of the ground. It just sort of makes sense when you're there to be like, well, yeah, there's the hill, and there's the landing, and there's the gap, and the takeoff, right? Like all the pieces are there. You don't have to expand your imagination too far to think about jumping it, right? But to do that is a completely different undertaking. My name is Nils. I'm a professional snowboarder, and I've been doing it for about 16 years. I grew up in a small ski town called Stowe, Vermont, on the East Coast, and at the time, my parents both worked at the ski resort. I had a brother and a younger sister, so on the weekends, we would accompany my parents up to the ski resort, and it was kind of just our daycare. I started riding at a pretty early age, around 6 or 7. And there was just a snowboard and snow community in the town we were in. So I started competing and things happened pretty quickly. Snowboarding really early on kind of added this stability. It was pretty interesting. Like I was kind of like financially stable and independent around like 12 or 13. I just sort of knew maybe what was at stake. I understood that like I have this opportunity to continue riding and to create like a really cool life for myself. What are the odds you have something that's so serious so early on that you like figure out how to maintain your love for it through your whole life, you know? At 14, I moved out west to go to a school that kind of accommodated my riding schedule a bit more. Through high school, I was in Park City competing. It was around my early to mid-20s that I was finishing a degree at the University of Utah and felt a little directionless that I didn't know what my next steps in snowboarding would look like. After I graduated college, I got an opportunity to go onto the Freeride World Tour, which I did for 2 seasons, and it was kind of this neat way to shake up and like switch up my perspective on snowboarding. And then after 2 seasons on the tour, I've switched back into filming and haven't really looked back. I was able to make this transition from a competitive scene into a filming scene because filming at the resort with my friends and everyone that was a part of our group, you needed a video camera, and it was before Instagram, so you could put out videos on Vimeo, and then you know your video could go on Transworld or Snowboard Mag or something, and then you are all of a sudden able to have these different resources to help get your name out and kind of keep that like momentum going, and that's what happened. And I also had this like fire lit under me at that time. I didn't want to make it work. It was more like, this has to work. There's no exit strategy here. It took, you know, almost 2 decades of riding and 2 decades of pushing myself, my psychological limit, my physical limit, to get to a point that I feel like I finally have this foundation of like, I'm solid. Coming off of the 2023 season, I had been feeling really confident. It was a good year. I got to ride with Sage a bunch. Our like riding skill set, mindset, and communication, everything was just like an awesome year. It was the best experience filming I'd ever had. We opened up a jump in Wyoming that was like, we measured it and it was 127 feet to the knuckle. Chad's is 120. Some of our landings were at like 155. So I was like, Okay, cool, Chad's gap, how bad could it be? Like, I've hit something bigger than Chad's, that's good. I had really written off a chunk of this, like the last little block of the season. I went camping and rock climbing with my wife Bree down in Joe's Valley. That's like in my mind, that's always sort of like the change indicator of my season coming to a close as I'll like go camping and climb somewhere, but like the third weekend of April or something like that. I go up to a Little Cottonwood with Sebe, Sage, and Willem and Germ, and we build this like smaller hip. There was a crew on the first hip we wanted to jump. We get up to Chad's, we can see there's skiers at Pyramids, and Sage is like, I have never seen it look this good. To Sebe and I, 1:30 in the afternoon, kind of start having this discussion like, Sebe, do you want to hit it? And Sage is like, Nils, you're saying you want to hit it all year. Like, I'll help build. It'll be awesome. I'm like, damn it, Sage. Like, yeah, I was saying that, wasn't I? I wasn't planning on hitting it. And then Thursday, I'm kind of freaking out. So I'm like, it's end of April, no one's even around to help build this thing. There's 4 of us working on it. You hear stories of people taking 3 days with a 20-person crew to put it together, and we're like 4 guys that are already kind of tired. How is this gonna even work? I hit up Backcountry crew and was like, help, all hands on deck. You know, I think I was even texting you guys. I was like, I don't think it'll work. 20 minutes later, it's like, yeah, we're gonna build it. You know? Like, if you can come tomorrow, that'd be great. If you come Saturday, that's awesome. Gonna try hit it Sunday. This is like something I know I have wanted to do. So like, let's just follow the steps. Don't think about it, and let's just start following the steps until you get to that moment. I'm feeling it. Feeling the trouble. Try to stop me. Oh my God. The build, you just gotta move a lot of snow. And granted, the snow was harder to move than I thought it would be, but I was just like, all I have to do is what's right in front of me right now. I do this all day. Love moving snow. My earliest memories in snowboarding are wrapped up in like, do I wanna do this, you know? I think I've gotten better, as you do with anything over time, at managing my kind of like expectations and boundaries, and sort of where Nils as an individual can overlap and flourish with like the professional athlete side of me. How do you know if you've built a jump the right size? Well, I mean, look at that jump, for example. And like, if it was twice as big, you'd probably be able to say, it's too big. If it was twice as small, you'd probably be like, that's too small. And then you just sort of, eyeball it.
So there's not like an exact science. You're not out here doing math.
It's, I could bend your ear about certain trajectories and trajectoral phenomena, but at the end of the day, you just eyeball it. We had our like high pressure window to hit it, but it also was accompanied by really warm temps. And with the spike in temperature and the historical winter in Salt Lake, the canyon was starting to see a lot of like wet slide activity and starting to see like flooding activity. So what was happening on these days of the build leading up and on our actual hit day is that the canyon would close at like 9 a.m. till 7 p.m. They'd open it for an hour, you'd have to make it down. And it just added this like, you couldn't roll up to the jump whenever, hang out, leave whenever you want. There's this like added militaristic, like we gotta get in, behind enemy lines, get into the canyon, get out while we can. We might have to stay if we miss it. I did not think we'd be doing this, so I was like working out. I like climbed hard on Monday, Tuesday, went for a road run on Wednesday. I was like, yeah, we're not doing anything crazy this week. I can chill all weekend. Psych. My wife, Bree, bless her heart, she was trying to help. And by helping, she was trying to like talk about it and like unpackage how I was feeling and like, oh, you're scared. Well, why are you scared? And I was like, well, and then like kind of got into it as to why I was scared. And there's like Tanner Hall's iconic, terrible accident on it. There's just really high consequences if you make the wrong decisions. It's serious, I struggled with my confidence in riding for a long time. I always just didn't think I was that good. I was kind of part of this like protege, development, child prodigy wave of kids, and the sponsors I had been working with didn't really, I just wasn't getting the right results, and I didn't really see the potential as much as other kids at the time. So to lose that support was really grounding. I had seen so many riders kind of peak and fall, and I knew how turbulent a career in snowboarding was. In just the last 2 years, I've gotten to a point that I'm ready to try take a little more control and ready to try commit to it. Like I'm mentally committed to snowboarding at this point. And if you had talked to me 2 years ago, that probably wouldn't have been the case. And I feel like I've just recently like allowed myself to get to that point. Just even the logistics of the crew, like the whole backcountry crew parked in Big Cottonwood, hiked over Twin Lakes Pass, which was dangerous because of like the wet slide activity and potential, and then like had to ski down into Chaz Gap. We were hiking up from Little Cottonwood, which is much shorter, but like we thought we might get locked in. You guys have 9 to 5s that you have to go back to at the end of the day. So like, you're like, we gotta get out of here. And even mentally going into that day, I was like, yeah, I might have to like hike to the next canyon tonight to get out of here. Whatever, like I don't even care. Let's focus on the jump. I think I might drop where Sebe's at.
Is he a little higher?
He's like 4 feet higher, One, two, shoot. All right. As goes with guinea pigging jumps, Sebe and I rock, paper, scissors. I won, which means I get to go first. And, we both felt kind of confident in the speed and the in-run and our abilities. Having Sage there for the whole experience was awesome. There's a lot of like very important nuances to that build to make it work. So having his expertise and previous knowledge for that was helpful. Just overall having his personality there was like what made it really awesome. He's an athlete. He's intense. When he focuses, he's gonna like just completely pursue and most likely succeed at whatever it is that lies in front of him. So like that kind of rubs off on you. Guinea pig it, I do a front 3, and I felt like a bit of kick on the lip. In general, like the in-run's even crazy too, because you're just hauling ass down this super steep hill, and then it gets steeper before it flattens out and goes into a jump, so you like go through this kind of downward spiral into a compression zone, and you can't actually test that and then stop. When you're doing speed tests, you have to like start putting the brakes on way higher. So you just like don't know what that like added pitch and everything's gonna add. And you try to guess what the compression's gonna be like. You travel so horizontally, it's not like a huge poppy jump. So I was kind of like going towards the knuckle to jump like, okay, cool, I'm clearing it. Go ride out, do the 3, and I'm just like, whoa, that was really gnarly. I just figured I was maybe being kind of soft, right? And Sebe was going next. I'm down on the bottom. Sebe hits it, I believe it was a 7 or something, and like greases it. Both of us were just like screaming like, whoa, dude, you just hit Chad's Gap. Like, we did it, Childhood thing, it's like getting to ride the iconic big wave spot or something, right? Even that in itself was a wild experience to be able to do that. And then he was like, it was really poppy, was it not? And I was like, dude, I think it's just really gnarly. And he was like, is super gnarly was definitely like, okay, I don't want to be here long, you know? Let's get to work. A jump like that, ideally you want to be the first person to do your trick on it, you know? For me, like the most kind of technical, hardest thing I could think of that's in my wheelhouse is a switchback 7, which is, you know, you're like going in, fakie, and for me, and I think for a number of people, the switchback 7 is trickier because the geometry of your body, it's a lot easier to like fold at your waist. It's harder to like keep your structure correct. And I was like, all right, hey, you wanna like walk in the big shoes and wear the big kid pants and like try be a main player in this sport, have people remember you, like this is what that looks like right now. I just couldn't get the landing. I was so like focused every time, and I'd come into the landing and I would just like splat out or something. I just couldn't take it. I have a pretty methodical, rational outlook on everything, and I'm like, well, what makes sense? What's the best thing I can do right now? Because sometimes the best thing I can do is to stop trying the trick, at which point I might risk not getting it. And I also know when I don't know what I'm doing and like when it's time to, you know, explore that space or back off. I've seen what happens when you completely succumb to trying the trick and you either get hurt or you have this like mental breakdown, like, I don't want that for myself. Deciding to call it on the switchback 7 wasn't easy, but I was also just in like this critical mindset in the middle of the session that I realized the light was changing, conditions are changing, my energy is really changing. I don't have too much longer. I think I can ride off of this adrenaline to make something work. So decided to walk away from it, which was really hard. And then decided to try a back 1. I G'd out, flew into the flat bottom. I just had this like rushing of like emotion almost of being like, I don't do that. I don't like lose control. That like, I'm the in control guy. That doesn't happen. Like I'm done. I don't know. So to be significantly off the mark on Chads was tough because, you know, like we were there with Sage and Sage had this, and I'm thinking about this too while I'm like hiking and hitting it. I'm like, oh, like, you know, Sage had this battle with his back 12. And on his like self-proclaimed last go, he gets it. It's the hero's moment. He like has that hammer shot that is this like iconic part in his career. Kind of humbling in a, this sounds mean to myself, but like on paper, I was like, I technically failed. You know, like that was the task. And I couldn't do it. Should I have kept going? I don't know, but that's the decision I made. And like, I have, you know, plans that it won't be my last time trying it, right? And like, that is okay. You know, it's okay. Yeah. It's just a jump that there are consequences. There are apparent and historical significant consequences if you make the wrong decisions. You know, I would say I'm at the peak of my career and I'm struggling with it still. You know, and that's just like a testament to everyone that's done it before. And also just like a reminder to why it's the most like famous jump in the world. You know, like it deserves respect and you can't really like bring it into submission or something. I kind of just had to like do my best and respect the jump. With the tricks that I wanted to get, it just wasn't in my cards that day, and you know, I had to learn from it. It's just this like a very special jump, you know, that I'm grateful to have like experienced.